COVID-19, or the more commonly known coronavirus, is currently one of the biggest global social issues. A highly contagious virus with no vaccine is evidence enough for the panic. The outbreak that has resulted in the global lockdown and restrictions of certain activities such as schooling, non-essential jobs and retail therapy to prevent the spread of the virus across the globe. Could this be the beginning of the apocalyptic dystopian future almost every video game is based on?
Or maybe it just means we have to sit inside and do nothing for a while. Not really the apocalypse I envisioned, but oh well, I guess. Hi there viewers, my name is Zoe and this is Surviving the Apocalypse with Common Sense and Courtesy. The COVID-19 virus originated in Wuhan, China, many people believing it may either be a bioweapon or an example of very poor containment, or possibly even the result of the Chinese culture's very interesting appetite. All information you should already know unless you've been living under a rock for the past 5 months. Because of the place of origin being Wuhan, China, large amounts of racial prejudice has occurred across the globe, labeling China responsible for the pandemic. Which begs the question, why put more pressure on a minority when the world is already being harshly impacted by a pandemic? The topic of interest is racial prejudice surrounding the coronavirus outbreak. If this is a global pandemic affecting each and every individual across the planet, then why does society take it out on this race? Our society should understand racial prejudice is wrong, and the origin of the virus has raised unnecessary amounts of racism. Racial prejudice is straining relationships with countries and cultures, impacting our nation's economy. Race has no relation to the infection and spread rate of the virus, proving that this racist uproar is not just a result of the virus, but rather that society is not close to clear of racism. Now, let's talk about a pandemic. If you or anyone you know is a decent human being, then you would know that racial prejudice is wrong. The origin of the virus has raised unnecessary racism, where it is not at all due. The main recipients of racial prejudice due to the outbreak are Asians. Many members of the public have been showing extreme racial prejudice against people of Asian origins. A Melbourne woman told the ABC,
All of a sudden, I just heard some guy at the side yelling, Asian.
They are being threatened and victimized during this pandemic. Members of the public that have criticized people of Asian origin have made them worried for their safety and well-being, some refusing to leave their homes, even if they maintain social distancing. Another Melbourne woman told the ABC about an encounter she had whilst with her 16-month-old daughter.
They were just like, you're not supposed to be here. You're supposed to be wearing a mask. Stay away from us.
You may be thinking, come on Zoe, these people don't mean any harm. They don't know they're being racist. They're just scared. Yes, they may be scared, but do you know who else is scared? These innocent members of the public who are being threatened because of their race. Most of the Chinese population have become victims of extreme racial prejudice and are being discriminated against as the virus originated in Wuhan, China. Most of the culprits spreading racial prejudice are everyday members of the public. Some world leaders, such as Donald Trump, are being racially prejudiced. Even our own Prime Minister Scott Morrison is not giving these members of society a fair go. These people spread racism either right in front of their victims, behind their backs, through racist slurs or even hurtful notes and messages. Trump himself continues to refer to the outbreak as the Chinese virus because it came from China. The Prime Minister has been racially offensive after inquiring about the origin of the virus. This increase of racial prejudice confirms that racism is far from over and is a very valid issue. As mentioned before, the Prime Minister got a little bit nosy regarding the origin of the virus and single-handedly managed to put a hold on the trading between Australia and China. Good on you, mate! As racism caused by the virus continues and increases, it strains relationships with countries and cultures. China's reaction to the racism they're subject to is not responding to any plans to ease tensions regarding trading and exports and imports of goods between countries. This means Australia could suffer a severe economical fallout if China pulled the plug on some of its largest exports such as beef and iron ore trade. Hit them where it really hurts, right in the economy. While Australia may suffer harshly to these tense trading relations, we are not the only country that has been hit. Countries such as Korea, Japan, Norway, Canada, and even France have all become victim to ill will from China. The strain on trading relations that has been caused due to the COVID-19 outbreak has caused trading of Australian beef to China to cease, as the Chinese government feels threatened by the Australian government after the Prime Minister inquired about the origin of the virus. The beef exports from Australia to China is one of the largest trading exports with China, with a value of approximately $2.67 billion. Other large exports are also under threat, with iron ore exports worth approximately $79.48 billion and coal exports worth $13.84 billion. These strained trading relationships can badly impact the economy of not only Australia but many other countries. This economical issue that could impact the country greatly could have been easily avoided if the virus-caused racial prejudice had been ceased. Although COVID-19 is a respiratory illness that affects breathing, it would not be surprising if it also destroyed brain cells. Many people are beginning to believe absurdities surrounding the virus, such as it's caused by the 5G cell towers or that drinking Corona beer will give you coronavirus. Another very popular misconception is that the virus is most likely to be carried by Asians, because the virus comes from China. Race has no relation to the infection and spread rate of the virus. COVID-19 is caused by reckless people that refuse to stay inside and abide by the laws put in place to prevent the spread of the virus. The initial response to prevent the spread of the virus was not entirely effective, as the right precautions were not put in place soon enough. Due to the delay in social restrictions to prevent the spread, there are many countries around the world that have suffered the consequences. See what I did there? How I just explained the cause of infection without once mentioning it's spread by Asians? Because it's not. The highest impacted country due to coronavirus is America, with over 1.7 million confirmed cases and 99,459 deaths as of the 26th of the 5th, 2020. This is due to the lack of precautions such as the travel ban from only some European countries, not including US citizens. China does not even come in close at 14th on the infection rate chart, with 82,985 confirmed cases and 4,634 deaths. China was able to contain and stop the virus effectively through effective social distancing laws. This explains how race has no relation to the infection rate of the virus. Although the virus may have originated in China, that does not mean that all Asians are carriers of the virus. The racial prejudice that has occurred due to the outbreak has put added unnecessary pressure on the global community along with this pandemic. From strained relationships between China and its trading countries to straight up say-to-face racism. The global community has chosen to blame race once again, disregarding the fact that this is a pandemic, meaning it affects every person on the planet, including these minorities. To stop the spread of the real virus, racial prejudice that is, do the following. 1. Do not criticize people because of their race and or culture. 2. Do not make rude assumptions based on a person's race. And finally, do your part to prevent the spread. Do not blame the virus on others purely based on race. Stop criticizing and blaming social groups for something they cannot control. Minorities are already suffering enough as it is. This applies to all forms of racial prejudice. Do not make rude assumptions based on someone because of their race. Stereotyping is still a form of racism if directed at a person because of their race. This again applies to all forms of racism. Finally, do your part. Maintain social distancing. Maintain adequate hygiene. Stay at home unless shopping for essential items. Use your common sense. The spread of the virus is not the fault of a minority, but rather the fault of people who refuse to stay at home, putting not only themselves, but the life of others in danger. Stop racial prejudice because it's the real virus. This has been Surviving the Apocalypse with Common Sense and Courtesy with me. Thanks for watching.